Welcome to the Phenomenal Experience. In the midst of an ongoing women's movement, I wanted to pay homage to the everyday women that make up and are made by this movement. I want to put real faces to the stories. Thus, the birth of the Phenomenal Experience, a docuseries inspired by women and brought to life through their stories. As said by feminist G.D. Anderson, women are already strong. It's about changing the way the world perceives that strength. The Phenomenal Experience is an array of stories by women, stories that delve into, highlight the multifaceted experience of being phenomenally feminine.
It really doesn't matter if you ain't got something.
A Femnomenal Worth is an exploration of the experiences that shape women through their adolescence into adulthood. It is aimed at understanding the idiosyncrasies of womanhood by delving into a varying array of personal narratives. It is with said narratives that this section aims to comprehend the lessons that women learned, whether explicitly or from experience, and how that shaped their perception of worth and ownership over their own physical and mental being.
How do you feel your experiences growing up shape your perspective of womanhood?
My experience growing up definitely shaped the way I look at womanhood, because growing up in a Caribbean family, a lot of women are kind of taught how to be basically fragile, how you're supposed to laugh a certain type of way, talk a certain type of way, how you're supposed to learn how to cook, clean, and how in the future you could have an education, but that's like optional. But in life, your goal is to just be the perfect woman for a man.
I have a Dominican background, so Dominicans take into really importance, like, family, motherhood, being a loyal wife, taking care of your home, taking care of your children, like that, those being like, your top priorities. And then being raised with those mentality in a place like New York, where it's just like, being independent is one of the best ways you can survive.
I was always in opposition to a man or to a more domineering force. So I think I learned a lot about resilience and I learned a lot about strength, but I don't know if I learned how to stand my ground just like for the sake of myself or for the sake of existing. It's always in opposition to something else.
To pay attention to my surroundings, especially being a young lady. There was no like going outside and playing with your friends. There was like stay in the house, shelter, like I grew up in Fort Greene, like it's Fort Greene Projects. We grew up on the other side, but I grew up in Fort Greene Projects because my great grandma lived there. So we grew up in the area, and back then that's when it was called like Murder Ave. He was out here doing crazy stuff, and my dad, it basically just showed me I needed to like not cut myself off from the world, but the world wasn't a very safe place.
The people that have had the most impact in my life are probably the women in my life. Some of the best lessons I've learned were through some of the women in my life, and then the rest was just me learning as I went.
I learned that it was just really important to always have women around in some context, whether that be educational or familial, the whole time I was growing up. So I was lucky for that.
Do you feel that your guardian taught you enough to maneuver through society?
I don't really think so, because my mother grew up in a type of environment that didn't allow her to like explore her dreams and like go reach for her goals, because what she had to do was survive. As my twin sister said prior to this, in a survival mode. Like she was just in a state of survival. So she wasn't really focused on like going and like pursuing her dreams and chasing her dream career, you know what I mean? So like I feel like my mom taught me the bare minimum, like how to survive.
I think my mom taught me enough to survive in society, to be able to continue on in the face of adversity. Again, I'm not sure that I was taught enough of how to stand in a room with confidence in myself. It's always about how I can survive within like adversity.
I'm first generation, And for some of my family, so like my parents included, it was like the third country they had lived in, and it was very different. So it ultimately came down to them giving us the survival skills that they had, and then it was up to us to kind of like navigate and figure things out.
Like in Japan, there's always rules and manners that Japanese people like to care about and think about what other people are thinking. As a woman, I don't know if that was enough for me as a Black person in Japan.
I wish my guardians taught me more about being a strong woman instead of being a pretty woman, or instead of being a woman that just has like no kind of personal substance. I wish they taught me how to fight. I wish they taught me how to defend myself. I wish they taught me, especially when it comes to skin color, I wish they taught me that my skin color was beautiful no matter what shade I was or no matter how I felt about myself. But in my family, there was a lot of underlining colorism that no one really wants to talk about to this day. So my guardians really, in all, they didn't teach me anything. Everything I know was basically from myself, and it was all self-taught.
When I say guardian here, I think I'm talking about my mom, but definitely socially, my mom gave me most of the capabilities I have, especially when moving through social settings as a woman. That was huge for her. She really taught me how to be present, be the person who's like setting the energy of the room, who's talking to people, who people feel comfortable talking to.
I feel like parenting is really complicated no matter what, and you're giving you're giving your child as much as you can. And I think that with my mom in particular, she did a really good job of making sure we knew how to work hard, and that we were valued, which I think is maybe a little bit more uncommon than I thought it was. And I'm really grateful for that.
What did you learn firsthand about societal expectations of you as a woman?
What I learned firsthand and still learning about is like the power dynamics in society, and particularly those that influence womanhood. I think sexuality is one, huge one. Desirability, attractiveness, intelligence, which often I feel like comes second. I think that those power dynamics are often to the detriment of the person. So, you have an opportunity, right? Like, you can either use what's in your bag, or you can kind of fight against the fact that that's even a part of how you can fit into society.
Not letting myself get boxed in because of my community. So definitely work. Just work for what you want. Nobody's gonna give it to you.
I was automatically supposed to wear skirts and sit with my hands crossed and wear jewelry, constant earrings, and just having this expectation of having hair and just having a look.
That we do have expectations that people expect women to do certain things or walk a certain way, talk a certain way. That we can only be a part of certain activities, maybe things like that.
But there's a lot of things that I was not taught that I had to learn on my own. The tough way sometimes, but I was able to see nobody warned me about this. But that's something that my mom kind of knew I was gonna figure out on my own. So
this is a society that is very strict on women, and aside from that, it's just you need to do things the way society perceives women should do things, and it's deeper than did my mom raise me the right way.
I learned firsthand that since I had the skin color I had, I would only reach far in life because of my body, and it taught me that dark-skinned girls or girls of a certain skin complexion are really only an exception if they had a nice body, or if they had a certain hair texture, or if they just looked a certain type of way, if they had either European standards, or if they had big booties, small waist, and everything so.
growing up and even today, and I'm still learning, is that as a woman, a young woman, and especially a Black woman, I'm expected not to speak my mind, but it doesn't work out for me because I can't stop talking. So like, yeah, I can't really say I learned that because I'm still gonna be talking.
It's like, you're not here to survive, you're here to live. So it's like, if you don't live for yourself, then who are you really living for? That's what I learned for myself growing up.
In regards to puberty, does society demand some sort of ownership over girls?
I mean, yeah, it's taxed. Like, like why for something that I get every month, why do I have to be taxed to buy my pads or tampons or whatnot? But even more aligned is that once you do have your period, all of a sudden you are responsible, regardless of your age, of when you have your period, to not allow a man to like knock you up or like not allow anybody. All of a sudden these conversations get layered where not only is there the purity that's around you having your period, but also your purity as in like your virginity and that construct. They kind of just happen at the same time.
As women, we have our menstrual cycles, and we can't control it. So society throws pads and tampons in our faces and make us pay for it, and it's very, very, very expensive. So that's how they keep us coming back to the store, so they know we're gonna need it, and they're gonna keep coming out with different types of feminine products.
Sexual education class, I guess you could say. And in all the scenarios that like they would explain to us regarding like safe sex and like just getting to know someone or just like, you know, consent and things like that, it was always like a woman's was like a body, like her body was just like a playground or like a testing board. And
when it came to like sexual education stuff, it was kind of like, don't get pregnant, don't do this, don't do that, avoid this, which yes was helpful, but in a sense it was never kind of catering to women of, you know, what a woman would feel when it came to sexual experiences, or it was more how to protect yourself, which was valuable. But
imagine being like young and you're gonna have your period or something, and you're about to have gym, and let's say whatever happens, people can be very cruel, and sometimes teachers aren't very helpful, and even sometimes your parent might not be ready for that in a sense, and it's kind of like it's something you have to hide.
I get the sense of protection, you know, that they want to give to women, but sometimes they kind of overstep the boundary to the fact, like, let's say I wanna like wear something like cute today. I'm feeling myself. I feel like I look good in this, and I step out the house, and I right away have like all these men catcalling me and doing the most.
Yeah, I mean, I vividly remember the first time I was called jail bait. I was about 12 years old, and yeah, pretty much every moment since then. Society and like the patriarchy in general has kind of asserted ownership, but puberty is really special because it's the first time that you feel it happen.
So while you're going through this experience of puberty that's really exciting, something that, you know, you've been looking forward to kind of your whole life, it also comes with the side of understanding the way in which society perceives you going through that process, and the way in which like society and men kind of see that as your like gateway into like their sexualization almost.
What's your view on Planned Parenthood?
I support Planned Parenthood because people only think about Planned Parenthood as the abortion aspect, but they actually don't realize Planned Parenthood does parenting, counseling. They also fund birth control to keep people from actually getting pregnant, and abortions are a very small % of what they actually do. And then, you know, when you have teens that suffer with like HIV and other STDs that they can't get treated, especially at like certain hospitals and stuff like that, Planned Parenthood is usually always there. So I feel like Planned Parenthood does more good.
It really does help a lot of people. Like, it's not just abortions that they do. Like, they give a lot of consulting on any type of issue that a woman has going on. If she needs birth control in order to prevent her from getting pregnant, she can get that there. People get like regular gynecologist exams. Like, they help prevent a lot of potential illnesses.
I support all services that are beneficial to women. You know, I think there's a lot of debate around the value of Planned Parenthood, whether or not it should exist, and a lot of that debate is centered around abortion debate. And regardless of what you feel about abortions or not, at the end of the day, like Planned Parenthood offers a lot of services that are beneficial to women across an entire spectrum.
Like, it's really grotesque to believe that Planned Parenthood is like what it's related to is abortion, but they provide so much more. There are community clinics that provide screenings, they provide physicals, and especially in rural areas, it's typically Planned Parenthood that you will find that will set up shop and try to provide some services to those local communities that don't have access to that. So it's demonized for one of the many services it provides.
It's definitely important for a lot of girls because I was lucky that I got referred to this other gynecologist, but I know a lot of people can't do that, so it is definitely important to have something like Planned Parenthood that supports other females and women in this state.
Like, it has definitely helped a lot of young girls, including me, in crisis moments, in moments when you can't run to your parents, and it's just like, let me be smart about it and not, do a stupid decision and just run to Planned Parenthood with your bestie and stuff like that. And they're very supportive of young girls. Even if you're under the age of 18, they ask for your own consent, that you're acknowledging that you're going there for whatever services that you're going there. And I feel like they are very helpful.
I might not have been the smartest, and I might not have had that support being like, you shouldn't do these things or whatever it was. And it was nice to know that, like, I was lucky in my state at least, and those were pretty common. Like, I could seek answers there.
I don't think Planned Parenthood that's the focus for me. It's the entire network of services like that focus on women's issues. Abortion specifically, I myself am pro-choice, but it's about accessing a larger network, I think, of care for women than even that. And it's starting long before, pregnancy resources, long before even getting pregnant. And, ideally we would have systems and nonprofits in place that provide resources way before Planned Parenthood.
How do you feel about legislations aimed at defunding Planned Parenthood and those creating such legislations?
A woman's choice with her body should not be something discussed in a conference room or discussed by anyone who is not a woman. So it just doesn't make sense that Planned Parenthood is such a niche thing that you have to go out of your way to look for. I think it should be as a priority or as general as being able to go to a bank. That should be something available for women comfortably.
And I think that the people trying to defund Planned Parenthood, of course, most of them aren't women and therefore really don't have a dog in the fight. But even if they do, most of those people, as far as I've seen, are not fighting to set up resources where women aren't getting pregnant with an unwanted baby. They're only fighting kind of to take that option away. So that's kind of where the motivation has to come into question, for me at least.
I think that it's not fair that, people make mistakes, and I don't think that it's fair that somebody can tell a woman or me what I can and can't do with my body. And what if it's not my mistake? What if something happens to me?
Again, we live in a society where they want to control women's bodies and people's bodies, and they really don't care about the negative outcome of trying to police every single thing in someone's life.
It's just another day of someone telling what a woman to do with her own body. I feel like hopefully, times will change that.
Girls should have somewhere to be able to go if something goes wrong. Places like that are needed.
It's funny that a lot of the debate is had by people who these services don't affect, who if they didn't have access to these services, it wouldn't be detrimental to their life, but yet those are the ones debating the existence of Planned Parenthood and debating the legitimacy of it.
Put it in this perspective. I didn't think about it until somebody said this to me recently. We were having a conversation about this, and they were like, women can get pregnant once. You can impregnate 5,000 other women. Does that make sense?
In your opinion, what should be some principles for raising a daughter?
Don't let your fears and anxieties limit your daughters as they grow up.
Self-love, self-education.
Is to educate her in everything and all things and everything.
Definitely teach them the most I can about self-love and to like who they are and their worth and how to be respectful of themselves.
Believe in yourself always.
And to always make sure you're like healthy, like in every way possible. Make sure you're good.
Treat your daughter how you would want to be treated as a woman and how you would want somebody to treat you as a human being.
Don't be afraid to have fun, whatever that means for you.
Be respectful, be kind, but also know that like you're gonna fuck up a lot.
To have humility and to have confidence.
Be independent, go for what you want, and learn how to make people respect you for what you do.
Never be afraid to make your presence known in a room. Never shrink yourself when you enter a room.
Teach your daughter how to defend herself.
Teach them about affection, the right affection.
And to learn her gifts and powers so that she would know how to go out into the world with them. So uniqueness, self-awareness, and integrity.
So learning to discern when it's actually necessary to give one is a superpower.
Don't let no one stop you. Don't let no one hinder your dream.
Embrace your daughter's femininity if she is a very feminine person, even if she's like a more masculine person, just accept that and embrace that for what it is.
Love, of course, you know. You always gotta just love your kids, man. If you love your kids, it's gonna be a different kind of relationship, so.
What I feel like I would want my daughter to know is, you know, find your way and I will have your back, no matter what.
You might encounter many defeats, but you must never be defeated, ever. In fact, it might even be necessary to confront defeat. It might be necessary to get over it, all the way through it, and go on. I would teach her to laugh a lot. Laugh a lot at the silliest things. And be very, very serious.